Okay, it's still back. I'm just at the shops at Moorooka. Just looking at the notice board, which is pretty bare. We have a Million Man March against COVID vaccines coming up in the next few days. And then there's a reach out big carnival thing for the church. And I'm just showing you a bit more about how, you know, this is little Africa up here, Moorooka. You know, the Ethiopian coffee shop. You know, you've got all these little stores. You know, of course, the African people, they have the, you know, hair. They're very popular with their hair stuff, and that's what we mean. Just not chucking off it. You know, we've got Arabs and Muslims, and I think the majority of here is Muslim, as the powers that be do. Is, you know, they've made like Annalee and Moorooka area of Brisbane, Meanjin originally, they've called it, they've made it sort of like African, or I don't know what the difference with all these fellas are, but there's a lot of the shops up here that are Muslim, and you got a Muslim grocery store and butchers, and you got African churches and everything. The main place that you'll see white fellas is probably the pub, second-hand store, and the Woolies. And you know, like the post office employment centre. And so, like over at Sunnybank, another area, is Asian. Everything's Asian. You know, we've got Chinatown up the valley. We've got all of these major areas around our cities allocated to ethnic groups, and you know, mainly the CBDs are always owned by the aristocracy and probably the churches, which is the Vatican. So just check your history and research on the cities and towns where you live, and have a look at where the original peoples of those lands sit. They're usually pushed out into the ghettos. And then, as I was saying on the previous video about a sister saying, you know, it's not just the city they do this. Well, they do it all over the world. It's the same symptom of an oppressive genocidal system. It's to remove the original peoples that hold the mandates from the Creator to uphold the sovereignty of the lands. That's why we got like China, and I wouldn't be surprised if China, that is what China, it pulls on Australia and says you have no right being here, you have no sovereignty. And you know, we never ceded our sovereignty, and that's the reason why we don't or shouldn't be pushing for a treaty with governments when we've had no justice. Now, I've just showed you how this place here in Moorooka is predominantly African-centric, Afrocentric, or whatever the wording you want to say. But and then we got Sunnybank, areas like that. Like after First World War, refugees came here in the masses, and they were from Europe. They were white, they weren't black. So then Second World War, same situation, and the governments worked with these people groups, and because then you'll see around the place a lot of Greek, you know, housing structures, and you know, that Mediterranean sort of look, not the Middle Eastern, you know, around Greece and Italy sort of designed homes. Then you got, you know, this European influence, like Orkenflower, it's German. That's where there is the big mass brewery. I think it's the biggest beer brewery in the Southern Hemisphere. So these are the sort of things that have the governments are very sensitive to, about relocating and allocating refugees and other people's lands, and then have them all, you know, scurrying for the bucket of funding, which they think is gonna help ease tensions. Like, you know, we saw there in 2012 in Musgrave Park, you know, our people were evicted from asserting their sovereignty from the mayor of this Brisbane City Council and their police force. 300 police came in that day 2 days in a row to remove us. And for the Greek Pignari, their little, little like a goat, horse looking leg with 2 horns, goat god. That's what their Pignari festival was all about, and that's what they did. They turned around and removed us and arrested us for asserting our sovereignty in a park that our mob has frequented for many years. This is the kind of stuff we're contending with, and that's why, you know, like, we started that. Go and allocate your lands, occupy. Ask them, how do you obtain these lands? Show us the evidence. There's a certain word for it in their terms, but, you know, show us that they're the paper trail. Show us the lease agreement. Show us how did you obtain these lands from the first people, because we've never ceded the lands. We're only by trickster, being tricked and being manipulated. That's the only way that they manoeuvre in, and Original peoples under natural law really are so blessed. You know, we've got waterways, clean waterways. We've got, you know, you could go and have a look at the remote areas mainly and go and see how, once they start looking at our people in those areas, how their access to the beaches and the waterways and all that sort of stuff. Once mining and money, the money god comes in there, that's it. Our mobs are really start suffering devastation. But before that, our mobs take a week to get to the other area, to mix with their other family in another area. All of that has stopped. And we're stuck in one area, and yeah, we might be living in paradise, but the interactions and the stuff that's going on, is it happening? But back to where we're saying that about genocided out. That's what my point is about this week's topics. As I'm walking around, going for my morning walks and stuff, that's what I want to be highlighting, is the fact that, you know, over there in Rome, the first people of those lands were called Aborigines. They extended, you know, a form of poverty imperialism, extended that Aboriginal title to every other land they dispossessed, where they dispossessed the people. It comes from Rome, and then England, and then England then formulates, you know, does all that to the original peoples, sends over, you know, 12 ships of these so-called convicts that they dispossessed from their own lands, you know, and, you know, just as I'm saying about how there's no way in hell people are going to be starving, I think that's all lies. Can't believe a lot of the Western systems history, because they distort our history to suit their genocidal plan that lead into today, which is the one world government and the one world religion that's going in place. And to tell the truth, it's already happened, a whole lot of it. The only hope is the original sovereigns. Okay, your way.